Hello, and welcome to a short demo podcast started by Kodo. This is Corey Doss, aka Kodo, and with me is Chris S. Say hi, Chris.
Hello.
Senpai Love, say hello.
Hey, what's up?
And joining us as well, just now actually, is Alexander Entertainment.
Hey there.
We were waiting for you for quite some time before we started this, but good.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Nah, that's all good. At least you're here. So, the subject we're going to be talking about in this will be in music, like me, Chris, and Al have actually discussed. As I've mentioned off record, there was another individual who was supposed to join us, who won't be named in this recording due to me respecting his privacy, and maybe he'll join us in another, commentary. But in his place, we have Senpai here, who was nice enough to join us at the last minute. So thank you, sir.
No problem.
So, where should we start? I guess we should start with industrial music, because I noticed that you, Chris, and Al had an interesting conversation on my server about the subject of industrial music. You want to give me and Senpai here an insight of that? Oh, by the way, actually, before we do that, where were my manners? I forgot to introduce everybody to everyone. Al, this is Chris S., someone who's part of my server, and as well as Senpai Love, who's also part of it. Senpai, this is Chris S., this is Al, and yeah, I'm sure you'll all get to know each other.
Yeah.
Very confusing introducing three people at once. But anyway, yeah, industrial rock. You, Chris S. and Al were talking about that on my server. What was that about?
Industrial music and that kind of thing. Especially since I've been listening to a lot of Coil and Throbbing Gristle, which were some of the more important bands in that movement. And yeah, we were talking about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Can you repeat some of that? We kind of got cut out. Sorry about that.
Let's see, where did I cut?
You mentioned Coil. I assume that's one of the industrial rock bands.
So Coil, I've been listening to a lot of Coil, and Throbbing Gristle, and they were two of the most important bands in the formation and development of industrial music. Especially, more Coil's early stuff. Both of those bands were pretty important to the development of the genre. Not quite industrial rock, but industrial rock would build off of what they did.
And Al, you were saying something as well about it.
What's up?
I was talking to Al. I asked him what his input was.
It was pretty cool. I haven't heard of those bands before because I only mainly listen to industrial rock and metal acts like Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails. But I'll try to keep those in mind so I could give them a listen later.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I'd say they're at least important to the development of industrial rock and metal.
Yeah.
Now, if we're talking Nine Inch Nails, yeah, they are definitely the first band that comes to at least my mind in the formation of industrial rock. I mean, when you mention Marilyn Manson, he's kind of more of the metal type in industrial music, and I think he could splash a little goth in there as well.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on your end, Senpai? You got any interesting bands from those genres?
I don't know about industrial, but I do listen to a lot of like I've listened to more metal and rock.
Well, that's a good segue from what I mentioned from metal and rock. Like, do you like Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails or any of them?
I have listened to them before, and I do like some of their music. I just don't listen to them like regularly.
Yeah, sorry, Chris. I don't know if I've ever heard of Coil or that other band you mentioned, but I'll definitely give them a listen.
Yeah, they weren't huge or anything, but they were very important to early industrial music.
Were they like the baby steps to that industry
Um,
genre?
like I think the first industrial release was or it wasn't. It was released as a bootleg initially, but it was the first annual report of Throbbing Gristle by Throbbing Gristle. That's considered, I think, the very first industrial release, really. And then, like, Coil was pretty early on in that scene as well. And then later in their career, they'd experiment with, like, post-industrial sounds and, like, more electronic music. But their early stuff is some of the most important material in the genre of industrial. So definitely worth checking out.
Ooh, electronic music. Well, that's a good thing to get onto. Because whenever I listen to electronic music, it's usually random musicians I don't really know the names of. I just listen to a lot of their beats. I don't know if I could remember any names. I don't even know if they have a lot of lyrics in the ones I listen to. But any good electronic music you guys like can bring up? Oh, you're
I
usually
don't
good
really
at it.
listen to anything that's a lot electronic that's on like Monster Cat.
Monster.
I've been listening to a lot of One O Tricks Point Never.
Are these guys like YouTubers or something? Because I've never heard these names. Are they DJs? YouTubers, DJs of some kind?
It's on YouTube. Monster
Um,
Cat's on.
One O Tricks Point Never is a pseudonym for artist Daniel Lopatin, and most of his music is released under the name One O Tricks Point Never. And yeah, like I really love his album Replica as well as R+7, and he also under a different name he invented vaporwave, so that's an interesting thing about him.
What was his other
Um,
name?
So under the pseudonym Chuck Person, he released Echo Jams Volume 1 in 2010, and it's like considered the first vaporwave release, and it's a good album too. So definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard it already.
Al, what about you? Any electronic music?
Huh?
Any electronic music that you dig?
Not really. Well, it kind of depends. The closest to like any electronic-ish type of ordeal was like, uh, well, Nine Inch Nails, but he combines it with the rock sound, industrial rock, etc. But for his first record, he kind of goes for a more of a synth pop-ish type of vibe. So I'm not really too sure. I mean, I have made a sort of electronic-ish EP before, but I just like to pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean Trent Reznor, he's always like had a way of experimenting with, different genres of music in the Nine Inch Nails project. To those who,
Yeah.
to those who don't know or live under a rock who are listening to this, Trent Reznor is the founder and pretty much lead man of, and pretty much the only man for the most part of Nine Inch Nails. Sure, he has other members that come here and there, but throughout the whole history, he's been the main guy. And I listen to him and his music here and there. I mean, it's very artistic. I like to think when I listen to
Yeah.
his music. He has a really artistic flow of how he presents his music. Again, I love how he just experiments with different things and tries to mix genres together. And it's amazing how some of them can turn out good and not like crap. Because genre mixing can be very difficult sometimes for some musicians.
Yeah.
I mean, how often do you hear a mixture of, I don't know, bluegrass with heavy metal? I mean, what the hell would that be? grass metal,
Brass metal.
thrashing on the banjo. I think that'd be an interesting thing we could all get in on.
Yeah.
I have seen someone actually do that before with Psychosocial. His name is Rob Scallion.
Oh,
He has
yeah.
actually done metal with the banjo. It was
You have got to send me a link to that. That sounds wicked and hilarious at the same time.
find it.
I mean, you know, you can send it whenever. I mean, it doesn't have to be an instant, but yeah, this sounds great. The only banjo thing I can really relate to is, and this kind of comes from a video game vibe, was
Yeah.
years ago when I used to play Super Smash Bros. Melee. In the Yoshi Island level, there's always a banjo riff that whole level when you play that level. And I love
Yeah.
that banjo riff. And I love the bongos that play in the background. There's like a guitar of some kind. No, not a guitar, a ukulele, I think, that plays also if you listen carefully. But the banjo really just dominates that whole level theme music. I don't know if I could play the banjo, but I have a friend who I told a friend who could play it a little. I went, you should play the banjo, and I should play the bongos, and we should cover that. Just cover the shit out of that, because it's just awesome. He once told me that when he lived in Chicago that he was playing around with a banjo and all these, I don't mean to get racy here, but a population of African Americans went, can someone tell this redneck to stop playing that? Or something like that. I guess they weren't too fond of the banjo. Well, it is Chicago big city people, so they probably don't get it.
So I did a little bit of searching just now, because I knew that Trent Reznor had, like, I knew he had, like, said he had been influenced by Coil, and that I heard that he had worked with them late in their career, but I don't know how accurate that is. He did commission, Coil were commissioned to do a bunch of Nine Inch Nails remixes, and that was really, a bunch of those were released in 2014 on an EP called Recoiled. And then, what else? And then, of course, the band How to Destroy Angels, which was Trent Reznor's side project, is named after Coil's first single. So,
Did he have to get permission to name it that from
What's
them?
up?
Did he have to get permission for that name?
I don't know. Coil don't seem like the kind of band who would be too, like, insane about that, but I'm sure that, you know, if he had asked for permission, if he did ask for permission, he didn't really have that too much trouble in getting it.